Hey there, welcome in. My name's Josh, and today we're going to be talking about how you can actually get things done. What do I mean by that? Well, I mean that we have so many big dreams that require a ton of work, and we know that, but yet when we actually sit down to practice, our practice isn't really that effective, or we never really sit down to practice in the first place, or for whatever reason, we just don't end up putting in the work that we know is required to get the stuff done that we need to, and then we just spiral in depression and self-loathing and feel like a failure, and that's not good. So how can we make sure that we actually sit down and practice and do what we need to every single day? Well, there's two ways to do that. The first is through motivation, and the second is through momentum. Okay, so motivation first. You need to have the drive and the passion, right? It's a problem if you're apathetic, right? If you're like, oh, you don't care, or you're depressed, it's like, well, that's really bad because you don't want to do anything. Nothing sounds fun, nothing sounds enjoyable. You're kind of a nihilist, like what's the point in anything? So if you're in that place, the first step is to find that passion, to find that reason for being, which is more into the psychology and philosophy side of things and art, but you have to figure out why you're doing it and why you want to do it in the first place and why it has value. That's a whole other different series we talk about, but you have to find that passion first. You don't have passion, you're hosed. So get your passion. Second, okay, great, you have passion, but guess what? You're also scared because artists have a systemic fear of failure. I mean, mankind does in general. Failing sucks and we hate it, we want to avoid it. And that's often why we don't sit down to practice, because what if we suck? What if what we make is terrible? What if we post it and doesn't get any likes? What if all of these things that just would crush us and our self-esteem and make us feel like the worst human being on the planet? I get that. Don't let that bother you. It's like, listen, look, I know that it's scary, but all of the best things in life live on the other side of fear. So if it wasn't scary, it wouldn't be worth doing. Just don't worry about that. I know that's so simplistic. I'm sorry, that's frustrating, but it's like, look, man, who cares if you suck? All right? Who cares if you suck? I mean, so many videos about this. Who cares? It's okay if you suck. You're beginning. Cut yourself some slack. I have other videos. Go watch those. I'm not going to go into that. I've talked about it a lot already. But don't let fear stop you, okay? More videos will just... It's fine if you suck. It's okay if you suck. Alright, so that's easier said than done. So we need something else to help you overcome that fear, because that's going to be a lifelong pursuit. So I can't just say that and expect everything to be fine, alright? So I get that. So you're trying to overcome your fear consciously. You're doing your best. Good job. Keep it up. But you need something to help you. What is that something? A reward. Now listen. So many people have unrealistically high expectations for themselves, thinking that they ought to be able to do more than they should. And this is why we get depressed, I should be able to practice 30 minutes a day. I should be able to not be scared. I should be able to do X, whatever it is. I should be able to not be scared of perspective. I should be able to do this. And we say should or ought to, and we beat ourselves up if we don't hit whatever that should is, right? And that's messed up. It's like, you don't really know yourself. Honestly, especially if you're a guy, your brain doesn't finish developing until you're 25. So that's not fair to say. You're being too hard on yourself. Cut yourself some slack. Again, listen. If you're terrified of coloring, if you're terrified of perspective, if you're scared of whatever, tell yourself that you'll reward yourself with something that you do like once you do it. That's not childish, it just makes sense. Look, okay, I like Overwatch, right? I also don't like perspective. So it's like, look, okay, Josh, if you practice perspective, and if you practice values, we'll play Overwatch after you finish, before you go into work. Is that okay? And inner Josh is like, really? That's okay? You're not gonna boss me around and say I have to do perspective and values all the time? And really? You'll let me play Overwatch? You have to talk to yourself as if you're trying to help yourself be a better person. There's a small bit inside of you that's really scared and really afraid, and the logical, rational side of you, the mind, the part that you think is you have to talk to yourself and be like, look, little Josh, I know you're scared. I know art is scary, but we can do it. If you can do it, if you can sit down and practice, we'll do something that you like. Maybe you like coffee, so say you'll go get a coffee when you finish, but actually give yourself that reward. Actually make sure that you reward yourself for doing the hard thing. Don't put these expectations or pressures on yourself that doing the hard thing is the reward. That's half true. Yes, doing hard work is the reward in and of itself, but you can't boss yourself around and be a tyrant and just expect yourself to be happy. So don't be afraid to reward yourself. It's not childish, it's not immature, it's necessary. You need to have that balance. You need to be able to have some fun in there too. If you do a hard thing, reward yourself for doing the hard thing, whatever that is to you. Alright, up next, the second way to actually get things done is to use momentum. Personally, the best momentum that I found is waking up early and working out. Now, I'm sure that sounds like death to a lot of you, and I get it, it was death to me too, but listen, when I wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning, which I do, and I work out every day, which I do, it really stops me from doing stupid stuff, because it's like, look, if I'm gonna have the discipline to roll out of bed at 5 and to practice art, and if I'm gonna have the discipline to go and kill myself at the gym and hurt and all of this stuff, it makes it a lot easier to eat good food. It makes it a lot easier to actually sit down and do art. It actually makes it easier to do these things. It's like, look, I might as well do it, because otherwise I'm just like fighting against myself. Which is why I don't get people who work out for the sake of eating bad food. It's like, I'm gonna work out so that I can earn the right to do this cheeseburger. And maybe that's the reward thing I talked about. Maybe that's not fair for me to say, right? But they're so against each other. So maybe at first that can be your motivation. Work out so you can eat the cheeseburger. But what's funny is that the more you do something positive, the more it encourages other positive things, which means the more you work out, the less you're gonna want that cheeseburger. The more you wake up at 5 in the morning, the less you're going to want to stay up late. Like, it's interesting, like habits are a thing, momentum is a thing. Pick the momentum, pick the habits that you like. If you close your eyes and think 10 years from now, I wanna be blank. I want to be thought of as that, or the ideal person that you want to be in your head. Pick some character traits and start on the baby versions of that. Start building habits and momentum that you would ideally like to see yourself have, and start going on that, right? I didn't like waking up at 5 in the morning, but I've been doing it for about a month and a half now, and I genuinely actually like it. That doesn't say I don't stay up till 1 o'clock in the morning sometimes. Sometimes I do, and when I do, it feels like Christmas. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm up so late. But then I sleep in the next day, and I'm like, man, I kind of wish waking up at 5. So think of sitting down to practice art as the pinnacle, monumental, big decision of the day that you have to arrive to, right? And all of these other momentum decisions are small, harder things that give you the momentum to do that big thing, to do that big tell, which is sitting down and actually genuinely practicing art, right? And what you have to remember is that once you're motivated to do that, it'll be harder to say no than it will be to say yes, because you feel like you owe it to yourself because you've already done all these other hard things. Something else worth mentioning before I close is that decision fatigue, you can look it up here, is a thing. You only have so many decisions, you only have so much willpower throughout the day. Now, the cynic could use that argument and say, well, if you only have so much willpower, why do you do the hard things? Why don't you just do a bunch of easy things and then do the really hard thing for art? It's like, well, that's valid, but it's harder to go from really, really fun thing to really, really hard thing than it is to go from slightly hard thing to slightly more hard thing. It's like jumping from a hot tub into a really cold pool. You can do it, kudos to you, but it's not as comfortable or easy or consistently able to reproduce that effect than if you just went from cold to warm to warmer to hot. And that's what the momentum thing does. So decision fatigue, yeah, that's what it is. Decision fatigue is a thing. So make sure that you're only doing the things that are important to you. Make a calendar. Scrolling through Facebook, scrolling through Twitter, Snapchat, all that stuff, like, those are small little decisions that are sapping a finite resource of decision making. Like, if you want to go on Snapchat, set aside time to go on Snapchat. If you want to go on Facebook, set aside time to go on Facebook. But if you just keep, interweaving these small little breaks, which is really just your fear and your procrastination manifesting itself and hiding from your problem, if you can get rid of that and stick to a schedule, and when you make that schedule accounting in for that reward time, scheduling in that I'm going to practice Overwatch once I finish time, your schedule won't be that hard to follow. Your schedule is meant to be to you, from you. It's a love letter. If you don't like your schedule, you're doing something wrong. Namely, if you don't like your schedule, it means that you're not rewarding yourself enough for the hard work that you're doing, or you're holding yourself to a higher standard than your body and your mind is able to keep up with. If you don't like your schedule, it means your schedule's too idealistic. So to sum up, to actually get things done, get a freaking calendar, man. Like, take accountability of your time, own that time, and then start building momentum by doing small, hard things that are worth doing that you know you need to do anyway, like make your bed, or eat breakfast, or work out, or wake up a little bit earlier, or whatever. And then once you get to the big ask of the day, sitting down to practice art, doing the hard practice of art, not doodling, like studying shading or perspective or whatever, you'll be a lot more ready to do that, right? So calendar, momentum, and then fitting in with both of those, have a reward. Do something fun. Reward yourself for doing something hard, because you need to have both, all right? Calendar, momentum, and have fun, okay? All right, that's it for this Thoughtful Thursday. Thanks so much for watching. For more about me, I have an Instagram. Do the like, comment, subscribe, comment thing on YouTube that everybody's supposed to do anyway, and I'll see all of you next week.